So why did it do that?
Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
There we go.
What are you under? Are you under PSC or are you under, is it
Professional
PSC?
Salon Concepts.
Okay, so I'm gonna do that real quick.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Happy Friday, Mr. Kelly.
Happy Friday to you too. Thanks for having me.
This is a big day for us. Kelly joining us, Kelly Cardenas of Kelly Cardenas Salon. We have been cheering him on for years and years and years. He's been just wonderful to be a part of Paul Mitchell and a part of PSC, and we're grateful. And he's giving us some time when he really should be spending the entire day, morning until night,
In his
celebrating his wife.
birthday.
You said in the salon. That's where Terry's mind's at right now.
Yeah.
Steve is like the family man, and Terry is like, look, you can do family
no,
now.
no.
You can
Get to
business
work.
stuff. I'm just joking with you. I'm
It's
kidding.
usually
With you.
the other way around.
I'm kidding with you, Terry.
How are you?
I'm doing amazing.
So you guys have been open how many weeks?
This is our second week in Las Vegas.
But California, not yet.
Not yet. We got the order last week or earlier this week, I should say. And but we chose, just like we chose in Vegas. We took 10 days to get ready in Vegas. We took about 9 days to get ready here.
And Chicago is June 3rd.
Chicago's June 3rd, but again, we're taking an extra week just to make sure that our staff is good, we're good, and we want to make sure that everybody is in the right place, not only physically and as far as safety-wise, but mentally too.
We've been
Sure.
talking a lot about doing run-throughs. Did
Yep.
you do that as well?
We do, but we only do it with our staff. The reason why I say, with our staff, we did that because we really didn't want to have any added pressure on anybody. And also too, all of our staff waited to get their hair done, just like the guests. So we
Good.
wanted to honor everybody.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, we did a live just before this that was special for the Chicago salons. There's one of the guidelines in Chicago that makes their ruling kind of not workable for salons. And I don't know if you've seen it yet, but you're only allowed 25% occupancy in the salon as of June 3rd. So you're supposed to decommission half of your chairs, half of your shampoo bowls, all of your waiting area, etc. But then on top of it, you can only have 25% occupancy. So it's a scheduling. What we're trying to do is in a very polite, very kind way, try and get to the alderman and the mayor and the Chicago Department of Public Health so that we can get that changed.
Okay.
Because I can't imagine, and I'm sure that you wouldn't be able to either. I can't see a way where a salon can be profitable operating at 25%.
Well, I think that whether it be 25, 50, 30%, whatever it is, I think you guys are the masters at this. You taught me this, and you said that you guys got a chance to watch me for a while. You hadn't been watching me. You've raised me, both of you. And so, but what you guys taught me from the very beginning is efficiency. And what I could tell you this, in being an efficiency coach, that's the lane that I've really moved into. And I'm doing that not only for salons, but companies throughout the country, whether it be real estate agents, restaurants, dental companies, casinos. What I can tell you this is I watch hairdressers, and most of them, in the event that they were efficient, 25%, 30%, 50% would be enough for them, because I just believe that as an industry, we're too slow. And we excuse it away, and we say that we're perfectionists, and that we say that we have to take this amount of time, but it's not. It's just the fact that we're not studying our craft to be able to do it in an efficient manner so we can get things done. And I believe that this is a call out and an opportunity for us to not get faster and push people through, but to be more efficient and be better and be masters of what it is that we do.
Well, this number doesn't scare me either. I think it's unrealistic because I don't know where they're getting it from, but it doesn't scare me because most salons that we coach are at 50% occupancy or less. So it doesn't scare me. If we spread that out, we probably could still maintain the same traffic if we extended our hours and created different shifts. So that doesn't bother me. The amount of times that we're not focused on efficiencies and having vacancies in our businesses I mean, that's mainstream. So you see that all the time. And if it's, you know, in a restaurant, if you saw an empty dining room over and over and over again, they can't withstand that. They can't hold on to that profitability unless they have high traffic. But in our businesses, we've been so geared at doing what's comfortable for the staff versus what's right for the business. And at least have the two of them meet halfway in the middle versus having it all be on the side of the employee. So I just think you have to ask people to not only think about themselves right now, but think about what we're trying to accomplish together as a team. And that's really key. I mean, you had some pushback. I mean, can you share that with our audience?
Oh, of course. You know, I've had pushback my whole career. You know, I think of it in three ways, Terry. It's you got to stand up, right? So you got to stand up for what you believe in. You got to dig in, and you got to see it through. And when you choose to stand up, you have to have already dug in, or else you're going to get knocked down. So when you come out with things like, I think this is the greatest thing that's happened to the professional beauty industry in the history of our industry, next to the greatest revolution, next to Vidal Sassoon bringing in the blow dry. We haven't had a revolution like this. And so, you know, what I love about it is, I mean, guys, if you're a hairdresser out there, and, you know, I would exceed every regulation, exceed it, don't abide by it. And so we're exceeding it, meaning that, you know, for us, we're not using blow dryers in the salon, which is cutting away 50% of the work. And so with 50% of the work gone, you know, we're able to service our guests.
Capacity, exactly.
Yeah, and also too with my wife, she came up with the concept of what is it called? What's her term? I'll have to get it from her, but it is a protective style. And the protective style is braiding conditioner into the hair and allowing that to set for a day, and then taking the braids out, and now you can wear it for a second or third day. And she sold, Terry, you would love this. Steve, you're going to love this too. 100% of her guests in the first day got a conditioning treatment. 100%.
Good.
Well, and Kelly, I'd like you to expand more on that, because you really kind of not only opened my mind, but it made so much sense to hear you talk about your experience in Vegas with the no blow dry. I've seen so many different groups online in our industry debating blow dry, no blow dry, and they're all taking it from a standpoint of, does it pass on the virus or not? And I think that your thought process on this, while certainly there's the optics of more safety, that's really not what's motivating the move toward no blow dry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was the first one. Well, it was the first one to get it moving. You know, people talked about, there was about 30-40% of our guests were worried that pathogens were going to be in the air and blown around. Also, too, we know that we have a lot of doctors and nurses that work in our salon, or come to our salon, like a lot of people do. They've actually taken fans out of the post surgeries, you know, post ops, so that way they're not blowing anything around. Now, we started off with this, and we wanted to, again, exceed. And we looked at a 3-tier situation. And if you're out there, what I would do is I'd write this down. And number one, we look at our team, the health and safety of our team. Number two, we look at the health and safety of our guest. And then number three, we look at the health and safety of our community. So, but it's got to be, for us, it had to be in that order, because a lot of people got it out of whack. They said, I got to think of the health and safety of the community. No. You got to think of the health and safety of your people, because if your people are safe and they feel amazing, they're going to transfer on phenomenal service and safety to your guest, and that'll transfer onto your community. Mm-hmm. So that way you really only have to focus on one as opposed to all three. So we did that, but what we found is, you know, I tell you, like, I walked into a store yesterday and my breathing was constricted from wearing a mask with my daughter. And I can tell you this, as a hairdresser, there's no way on planet Earth that you can blow dry for 8 hours and have a mask on. It's very, very, very tough. Not only for the health and safety from a COVID standpoint, but also from just a physical standpoint. And so what we did is we actually cut back our stylists to 6 hours, 6-hour shifts. And we're actually doing better than we've ever done in our history of our company.
So part of your key is definitely 6-hour shifts. happier, healthier staff team, because they're being able to be more creative without the wear and tear, and without asking them to go beyond their means, which, as you said, I think that wearing a mask for even a 6-hour shift is going to be an adjustment. And especially to people that have been, whose stamina isn't built up, right? Because they've been on stay-at-home order for the last, 10 weeks.
It's
Absolutely.
funny. It's not funny. Yesterday, Emma and I went
Zip lining.
zip lining. Get that. Put that picture in your head of Terry Cowan zip lining. And the funny part about it is Emma, if you look at the pictures, and I posted a few, Emma's very relaxed, holding on to the lanyards, and her legs are out. And mine, I'm tight on the what do they call it? Crowbar, whatever they call it. And my body is all like in the fetal position. So today, I was so tense yesterday that I can barely move today, but I did it. She was amazing, and I completed the task. So, but the reason I bring that up is for ziplining yesterday, we had to go through some different things. For example, they're not taking 6 people in a group. They're only taking familiar family members in a group. So it was just Emma and I with our 2 guides. But all of the introduction by a service provider on the outside was done so poorly. They said, you have to wear masks, and we had them on. She didn't look up and say the obvious. She said, you have to wear masks. Well, Emma and I were both wearing one. You have to wear gloves. Emma and I were both wearing them. Now, had she been taught, thank you for having a mask on. We're asking all of our people that are enjoying ziplining today with us to have masks on, so thank you. But she didn't know how to personalize her time with the guest. I asked her a few questions. She was unable to answer them. She kind of knew. She'd worked there for 3 years, but this was new to her. And I have to tell you, when Steve looked at me, I said, that was terrible. That was terrible. I'm nervous anyway, and now I'm anxious. So it's all about the preparation of this thing. I think the girl knew masks and gloves and social distancing, and this is what you do, but she didn't know how to present with confidence. And so it made me doubt the whole process, everything about it. And that's my biggest worry for salons. How did you train the front of the house, especially your first impression staff, to be able to do this with ease and not sound sloppy, because it is different than what they're used to delivering?
So I think the first thing is I wanted to be able to help our staff to ask them one question. And I think that this is what every salon needs to ask themselves is, what do you see? And I ask that question, and then I sit back, because I want to see what the people see. Because if you see that this is the worst thing that's ever hit the industry, and that you have to wear a mask, and that you have to do all these things, you have to take temperature checks, oh man, our business is going to go down the drain and all this stuff, it's never going to be the same. Okay, you're absolutely 100% correct. But if you see that this is the greatest revolution that's ever happened in the professional beauty industry since Vidal Sassoon, then you're 100% correct. Mm-hmm. So what I did is I worked on the mindset first, and we worked that mindset. And then secondly, we emphasized the fact that wars are won in peacetime preparation. And we help them to understand that if you wait until the war happens and you try and train during that time, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So we're going to train hard beforehand. So what Floyd Mayweather says is hard work is easy work, because if he can run 25, 30 miles, being in the ring for 5 minutes is easy work, right? So wars are won in peacetime preparation. And then the next one was, where does the buck stop? Right. And so I think in every organization, and I love this about you guys, and you guys taught me this, I'm literally just regurgitating things that you've taught me over the years. So you guys could have just had like a blow up doll on, and then you would have talked through it. But where does the buck stop? And in your organization, where does the buck stop? And I had to make the decision that General Cardenas reported for duty. When this happened, General Cardenas, I'm the 5-star general. And so when I went into my organization, the buck stopped with me. And I had to take that responsibility. I was not going to be the popular one. And I wasn't. When I told people that we weren't going to blow dry, every hairdresser told me, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. What about Miss Jones? And then when I said that there will be absolutely no exceptions, that we are not going to accept any complimentary services, there's, that these are the way that we're going to go about it. General Cardenas reported for duty. I had a 4-star general, which is Bobby Bosch in Chicago. We had Shauna was a 4-star too. Selena was a 4-star. And then we looked at our 3-star generals. And then we went on from those points in rank and file. And the buck stopped with me, and I had to make those decisions. And I would suggest that every organization, whether you're a one sole proprietor or you're in a salon, you've got to choose that person, and they've got to be able to make tough decisions that are going to be good for the whole, not just for themselves.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's really difficult when you've got people that get confused or get bumped off of their beliefs because of pressure from the staff. I mean, we're making this decision, and then all of a sudden you get the yeah buts in there, but yeah, but, and then they start to lessen their position of leadership. And, all that does is break down the people's perception of leadership as a whole, right? Are we doing what we said we're going to do? Are we standing behind it? No exceptions unless we communicate it and give approval. But yesterday, you couldn't zip line without these things on. And what was really interesting yesterday also is that the 2 guides said, please, we're asking your help too. If you see our mask start to slide down, just nudge us and tell us to bring it back up. It's almost as if the 4 of us were working together as a team to make sure our experience in the mountains was very positive and safe. And that's what we're looking to accomplish, exactly the same thing in the salon, that the experience is enjoyable and safe, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why we're doing these things. And we've got people, I worry about the 20-year-old that has to tell their customer, you don't have a mask on, so we can't serve you today. I really worry about that.
I had it happen.
Yeah.
I had it happen. I walked out and the guy was sitting outside and he said, I got a medical condition. He was a younger guy. I got a medical condition. I can't wear a mask. And I said, thank you so much, sir. So we're going to have to get you rescheduled. He said, I can't believe it. I would never wear a mask and all this stuff. And I said, that's amazing. I appreciate it. And I respect you, but we're going to have to get you rescheduled. He said, I can't believe that we would have to do this and that. And I said, we're going to have to get you rescheduled. And then the door opened to the salon because we keep the door locked. And I would suggest this, lock the door when a guest comes in, lock the door after they leave. So that way you can control the environment. This was made by Shauna Martin. She is an absolute genius, and she's the general there in our Las Vegas location. And when we opened the door for me to walk back in, he saw his stylist. Her name is Delaney. He looked, he saw her in her eyes, and he was like, maybe I'll just wear this for one time. And then he put the mask on and he came in and got a haircut and he looked phenomenal. And I high elbowed him afterwards. And I said, you made a good decision. But I think that when I said earlier that you have to stand up, you have to dig in and you have to see it through. Mm-hmm. You have to dig as deep as you want to rise tall. So if you want to rise 6 feet, you've got to dig down 6 feet and have a foundation. You got to be strong in your beliefs. And if you're not strong in your beliefs right now, this COVID is not forging character in people. It's just exposing what was already there. Mm-hmm. And so that's the thing that I would suggest, is the kids need, and this industry needs leadership more than anything, not power structure, but we need people who are going to go into battle. And I mean, you guys are Chicago people. I know you watched The Last Dance. We need the Michael Jordan right now. We need the cleaner.
Yeah, but most people don't have to do that. They wimp out and then they're surprised with the results. I don't get that. When I know that in the next 2 weeks, we're going to hear, we're not doing that any longer. We're not doing that any longer. And then I'm just going to shake my head and be so disappointed, not in them, for them, disappointed for them, because obviously at some point they felt tested enough to back off on their belief. And that's what I'm going to be heartbroken for them, because it's going to cost them financially too.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, I would suggest everyone out there read the book Relentless by Tim Grover. I'm sure that you guys have already read it. It was Michael Jordan's trainer, and he talks about coolers, closers, and cleaners. And Michael Jordan was a cleaner. He was the guy who didn't get emotional. He was the guy who stayed in the zone. And he was the guy who said, and this is what I said to my team verbatim. This is what I said. I said, guys, we are not shooting with blanks anymore. We're firing with live rounds. We're going into war. And what I'm letting you know is, as your 5-star general, I'm going to take you to victory. I'm going to take you to victory. I can put you on my back and we're going through this thing. You've got to trust me in this time. And I'm going to make decisions that are not going to make you happy right now. But I can tell you, every one of my stylists, every single one of them in Las Vegas is like, oh my gosh, like this is
Kelly,
this is a different world.
did you have anyone say, look, I don't have daycare and I can't do this, and this is all I can do? And what did you do?
Well, we want to respect everyone. We wanted to, I said that we were a no shame zone, meaning that we weren't going to shame you if you wanted to come to work, because there's some people that want to go to work because they need to feed their kids. We didn't want to shame you if you were afraid and you felt that you were going to get sick. We wanted to honor you 100%. We had 2 individuals that we honored, and they didn't want to come back, and they felt that they would be compromised. So we had to respect them, and make sure that they were good. For the kids who came in, I always think about it like this, like, the less people eat in the pie, the bigger the piece is. And, I know that sounds insensitive, but
No, it doesn't.
It's one of those things where, we came back, and I mean, we're not going to talk about specifics on numbers, but I mean, like, when I say ridiculous, when I say stupid, like it's stupid for working 6 hours a day. I mean, the top pinnacle of our industry, which is Van Counsel, he has a formula. We almost doubled that formula.
Wow.
Actually, we more than doubled it. And that's Van Counsel. Van Counsel is the top in the industry. And he has a formula on how to be able to build a salon to the most efficient. And most people never get to that point. And we doubled it. And we did it with 6 hours. And we did it with 6 hairdressers shifted 3 and 3. Like, I mean.
That's awesome. No wonder you're giggling.
But look what the labor did. I mean, you took that labor off their shoulders right now. Why don't you go into that more in detail on how you made that decision?
Well, what I wanted to do, again, the health and safety of our team. And I wanted to make sure this was the big thing. And I want you to write this down. I'm going to ask you guys to take notes on this, because Terry, hopefully you'll use something that I say, because I use everything you say. But this one.
I've already taken notes on this.
No, but I'm saying, like, I steal everything. I steal everything.
I already had a cheat sheet call with you, so I'm in good shape. Go.
Success leaves clues. Like, I stole that one from you. I'm writing a book on it. The book's almost done. Success leaves clues, but I stole that from you. What I would say, and this is the one that I want you to write down, is build your business around your life, not the other way around. And we as hairdressers have done this for years and years, and we've built our business, or built our life around our business. And don't do that anymore. You've experienced and you've tasted being home with your kids and having this experience and all these things. Don't take the negative side of it of being like, yo, I got this COVID and I made more at home than I did while I was working in the salon. That's awesome. But you tasted what it could be. So now what I would suggest is build your business around your life. Choose the life that you want to live, and then build your business around it. And this is exactly what Brooke and I are doing. We are not going into the salon 18 hours a day. We are not working 7 days a week. We're not working past a certain hour, because we have kids and we love them. So what we're going to do is we're going to fit our business wrapped around our life. And what we're finding is that we're profiting more. We're healthier. We have a greater quality of life. We have, time for each other. Our stylist, one of our stylists that I told you, she for this day, and Steve, I told you this number, I'm not going to say the exact number, but she did in this day, she put herself in the top 10 percentile of the whole industry for a week, and she did it in 1 day. And she did it in 6 hours. And when she went home, she had energy to be able to spend with her man. And I've never seen her on fire like this before. She's always been deflated. And hairdressers for years and years thought we have to leave it all on the floor. I can tell you this, if you leave it all on the floor and then you go home to your wife or your husband,
there's nothing left.
Yeah, and then you might get a divorce, and that'll cost you more to be able to have to work more. So I wouldn't suggest that at all.
But we took the labor out because the physical part. Go into that more.
Well, I mean, first off, we took the labor out because of the health and safety of the team, right? So we did that. And what we found, the byproduct of making the right decision, like you guys have always taught me, do the right thing for the right reason, and the right thing will happen, right? You guys have taught me this from the very beginning. And so, what we did, and by doing the right thing, which was the health and safety of our team, we found the byproduct of it is, wow, this blow dry thing, I mean, I was on webinar, I've been doing webinars with clients, and I had clients raise their hand in the Zoom meeting, say, I'm so glad that you just said this about blow drying, because that's been my least favorite part of the whole service for my entire visit in the salon. And I've been going to the salon for like 10 years, but I don't tell the hairdresser because it hurts their ego, because they do this thing when they're done. They get it done and then do this thing.
Yeah, okay, good.
What does this do? Have you ever got paid for, Terry, Steve, have you ever got paid for doing this right here? No.
That's funny.
I don't. And so what I found is, my whole company is based on cutting away the fat. I worked for a Robert Cromie salon, which is, I think, the greatest guy in the industry. But when I left, people were like, oh, wow, you're going to do it like Robert? And I said, no, I'm going to cut away the fat. I mean, because I want to honor what he did. And we streamlined things. And I took away things that didn't need to be around anymore. And in doing that, we were able to make hairdressers more efficient. And now it's nuts, like, to see this, because really, if you take, 30 minutes to take a blow dry, right? And you had 6 clients in the day, that's 3 hours. I just gave you, as a hairdresser, 3 hours back to either do more guests or leave early and spend time with your family.
Now, I asked you, you know what? I heard that story when I was very young in the industry. There was a gentleman, his mother was kind of an industry icon for a while. Her name was Grace Duran. And I saw her son, Bill Duran, teach a class in the Chicago area. And he said he learned the most about cutting and styling and servicing a guest when he was given the last chair in the salon. The farthest away from the front of the salon, he had the back chair, and he could look out into the parking lot. And he said when he would look out into the parking lot and see a guest that he had just completed, and he just, perfect, everything the way he wanted. And that guest got in the car and cocked the mirror, and all of a sudden went through her hair and fixed it the way she wanted it.
Or the way they feel that they look best. Yes.
Yeah. And it's
that's Terry Cowan completely.
And, I think back to even, in the men's hairstyling days, when I would go in and get my, they would blow dry with the metal comb to put the crease of the part in and all that kind of stuff. And they would blow dry it, and they'd put a big fish net on it and hairspray it through and all this kind of stuff. And I used to say, you know what, that guy only blow dries my hair once every so many weeks. I do it every day. Of course I'm going to be better. Right. And so it does make sense. And it's really what Paul tried to do with his sculpting when we were first trailblazing in the early days of Paul Mitchell. But the reality is that this is a great opportunity, and this is a new way to think. And that's what attracted me to it so much when I heard, you're always, you could talk about that microphone in front of you and be so excited about it that we'd all be jealous that we didn't have one. And I am, by the way. But the fact of the matter is that what you're doing is really, I think, extraordinary. And it needs to be considered. We need to get out of the whole, I get that it's safety for your team, safety for the guests, safety for the community, but safety is not the only reason why this makes so much sense. I think you said, I asked you, are you going to do this after things are back to the new normal? And I think you told me you were thinking about adding it as an additional service on the menu that you could, I forget what did you call it, express service or something like that? I don't remember, but there was a title that you had for it.
Well, I think, Steve, you're exactly right. And for me, anybody that's out there listening, I'm not telling you guys what to do. Now, if I'm your coach, if I'm your efficiency coach, I will. But I told some crew the other day, my wife was like, if you want to be good, you should work with him. And I stopped her and I was like, no, if you're a salon owner out there, you're a stylist out there, and you want to be good, I'm not your guy. If you want to be great, I'm not your guy. If you want to be the best that you possibly can be and push yourself to the craziest limits and have and experience your potential, I'm your guy. But for you to want to be good, don't call me. Don't email me. Don't message me, nothing like that, because you'll waste your time, because you're just going to be mad at me. If you want to be great, that's fine. You're going to need to find somebody else. If you want to, again, you want to be the best, you want to be the most efficient, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. And when we're looking at these things, Steve, for me, again, I'm not saying that the whole industry needs to do it. I'm just saying, like, I'm looking at my team being the happiest they've ever been. I'm looking at my team being the most efficient. I'm looking at my team getting off like at 3 o'clock as a hairdresser, working from 9 to 3, 9 to 3. And they're doing as much as 90% of the industry does, or they're in the top 10 percentile of the whole industry, and they're doing it in 6 hours, but they're doing it in a day where most hairdressers are doing it in a week. I had a young girl that's 21 years old, 21 years old. And I mean, Steve, it took me 7-8 years to get to the point where she just got to at 21 years old. And she got done. And you know what she did? She asked me if she could stay, because she was so accustomed to working so hard that when she got done with 6 hours, she looked around. She was like, is there something I could do? Can I clean up? Can I do this? Can you imagine, salon owners, if your stylist didn't want to leave and they wanted to clean your salon when they were done for like a half an hour because they felt that they didn't do much work?
Well, what I like about this thinking is because I've read it up on the restaurant news page, and it seems like blow dryers, salad bars are not going to be welcome back. And that makes sense to me. It's also a very costly addition to the menu. Your meal includes a salad bar, please help yourself. And that's very labor intensive, a salad bar, to keep it looking nice and so on and so forth. I think people will have a hard time with that in their favorite places that they go to at first. Mm-hmm. And then they'll live without the salad bar. But what are they going to do to that salad that's now going to be easier to provide, but how are they going to make it as good as a salad bar? And that's what people are sitting around thinking about right now. And that's kind of what you've done with the no blow dry, right? And you said, okay, now we're taking this out. This is what we're going to do. And these are the options that we've got. And I think they're going to be fine with it, as long as they're not sabotaged by anyone on staff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If any one of your staff would have said, we hate this, we want to blow dry, he's telling us we can't, it would have ruined the whole thing. To have them behind it, that's what's making it work.
It definitely is. And also to be able to look at my wife, she's a genius. She talked about protective style. So what we're doing is bringing the bowl out, bringing a color bowl out with conditioner in it and a brush, and applying the conditioner and showing the guest how to apply conditioner properly. Because let's face it, every woman out there that's listening puts conditioner in the exact same way. Slap, slap, smack. That's what you do. Or slap, slap, smack in the back of your head and then rub it from there. But very few of you, if any, are taking sections, applying it, combing it through, and letting it sit. So now we're teaching artistry. Our take home was through the roof. I mean, our take home was nuts because we were taking the time to show them exactly what it is that they needed. I mean, our number for take home, I mean, it was outlandish. Like, and when I say ridiculous, it was stupid. It really was. But it was because we're helping people to understand, and we're actually doing our job. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that part of our job is teaching artistry. So, and I think that you have to make sure that, say like when I'm coaching a salon owner or a stylist, I'm helping them just like what you were talking about. You've got to go into it, and you've got to believe it first. And my brother asked me this years ago. He said, why isn't my brand jumping off? Because he had a MMA appearances brand. And I said, he's like, I want to sell the shirts. He said, you've been selling shirts, so how do I sell the shirt? And I said, do you wear the shirt? He said, no. I said, well, until you wear the shirt, it won't sell. And I could tell you this because you guys know me for 14 years. I mean, there's always something. Mm-hmm. There's always something. There's always something. Yeah. Hold on. There's always something.
Yes.
There you go.
Exactly.
So we've got to believe in it before people will consume it. And once you believe in it, then everybody else will jump on board. And when I'm saying that, as far as the guest, I mean, there are going to be times where people say, no, I want to have a blow dry back and things like that. But I mean, for me, I'm going to weigh it against the pros and the cons. I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we do, but that's why I suggest every salon owner open in 3 phases, very strict, open up what you want to, and then your new normal. And if you do it in those 3 stages, now you have the freedom to be able to work inside your culture and keep it brand specific to who you are.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Good.
So real quick, while you have people are going to be watching this who maybe haven't seen you, tell us about your podcast, Cal.
Well, the podcast was made for my kids. It's called the 98.2, and it was made for my kids because I wanted to humanize iconic people like yourself. I wanted to help my kids to see that people who accomplish things like what you guys accomplish, and what these and whether it be sports players or whatever it is, that they're simply people who work their passion and work really hard. There's no secret sauce, and so it's not industry. For me, it wasn't ever about industry. It was about people. And so my first guest was Robert, which was awesome. And everyone was like, "Oh wow, you're gonna get all these hairdressers." I was like, "Nah." I mean, I got the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, my favorite team on the planet. I got him. I got Tom Bachik, who is the nail artist to J-Lo and every A-list celebrity that you could possibly think of. One of his stories on the podcast was he was like, "Oh yeah, me and J-Lo were hanging out one night, and then she got up and made me a peanut butter sandwich, and then she came back." I was like, "Wait a second, just stop right there, because J-Lo just made you a peanut butter sandwich." Yeah. So I just had Gordon Logan on from Sport Clips, the president of the Mina Group, which is Michael Mina, one of the top celebrity chefs in the world. Tim Foreman from Switchfoot, a Grammy Award winner. The catcher from the U.S. Olympic team. I got the correspondent from the UFC, Megan O'Leary, the vice president of Cielo, one of the largest staffing companies in the country. And again, the whole thing is about the 98-2 rule, which is 98% attitude, 2% aptitude. And if you focus on having the greatest attitude in the world, your aptitude will follow.
That's awesome. And they can get that anywhere where podcasts are downloaded.
Yes. So you'll go Apple Podcast, Spotify, you can do Anchor. We have YouTube, on YouTube, Kelly Cardenas also. And so, again, I'm going after every single person. Like I think about this, like every person that hasn't been on my podcast already isn't on my podcast. Does that make sense? So I have a message out, and I could show you on my phone. One time I met Chrissy Metz from This Is Us, and she came in the salon in Vegas, and she gave me her phone number, and I've been texting her to get her on the podcast. I'm going after every single person that I possibly can, because I want people to realize that iconic people are just really, really hardworking people with great attitudes.
And ideas.
Yeah. It's nuts, like, to hear this stuff, like, and to let them go, let the people go and really, talk about what they're passionate about. And it all comes back to, every one of them has I got with the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, Jamie and John Robinson. I interviewed them. He was sitting in his draft room where he drafted the NFL. And wow. I've been an Oilers fan since I was 6. And I'm jumping through the screen. This is the coolest thing ever. So for me, it really is, it's been a dream of mine for a long time. That's why for me, and I'm not trivializing the coronavirus, but I can tell you this, I love me some coronavirus because of the opportunities that is posed. Not the effects, not the negative parts of it. I'm not trivializing it again, but I just think this, and this has been my whole mantra, has been, I'm making lemonade here. Like, my life has been served lemons for my whole entire life. And Terry, you and Steve taught me, all you need is a little bit of water and a little bit of sugar, and you got the best drink in the whole entire world. And that's what I think the industry is at right now.
That's awesome. Well, we can't thank you enough, Kelly. Really has been a joy to have you with us today.
And when are we scheduled for the podcast? I don't even know.
Well, do you guys want to do separate? I would like to Steve, I would love to be able to have Terry on during June, because it's Powerful Women Month on the Kelly Cardenas podcast. So it's, I
better get in training.
It's strong. Have you guys read Tim Grover? Have you read him?
No. I have not.
Okay. You're going to die. Like Terry, you're going to die with this guy. This guy is, the mentality, because he trained Michael Jordan and he trained Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant. And this guy is he's in Chicago. So you guys are Chicago people. I'm going to get Tim Grover on my podcast. I've already reached out to him. He said he's not taking in any interviews. So I'm going to keep asking him every day until he says I'm taking interviews. But I tell you, please check that dude out. He is.
We will.
Yeah,
on
I
another level.
loved him just watching him communicate in Last Dance. I just loved it. And we've been, of course, being from Chicago, being exposed to watching who Michael was. But you know what I loved during the Last Dance is when, and I think we talked about this, not today, but when he said, I now had my baseball body, but I had to get back to my basketball body, right? So his trainer had to, and I thought, oh my God, what a specimen of health. But his basketball legs were gone from underneath him. I don't think hairdressers realize, and maybe you can talk about this since you're 2 weeks in, but they had to bring back their hairdresser legs, their hairdresser mindset, their hairdresser get off your behind, you're going to be on your feet all day mentality, right?
Well, I told our staff this, and then I have a question for you. I told my staff this when they came back. I said, look, we're going to be all about efficiency because we've got to make sure that there's not many touch points for a guest. They're going to be weary. So the longer they're in the place, the wearier they get. So we've got to be efficient. And I said this, and I quote, and I said this in the meeting, and it was not popular. I said, if you're slow, you're out. I said, if you're slow in shampooing, you're out. If you're slow in coloring, you're out. If you're slow in cutting, you're out. We are going to be efficient. And if you're going to be a part of this team, you're going to be efficient. And some people were like, oh my gosh, like I'm so scared. But I said, guys, I love you. I love you to death. But we're going to be efficient. So let me ask you this. You guys have been in the industry, and you guys, the things that you guys talk about today, like 3-4 years, people catch on, a few people. And then 10 years later, then the industry starts doing it. How are you able to manage that emotionally? Because I've been around you, and I remember the first time, both of you, and you guys said, can I be honest with you, or you want me to make you feel good? And I was like, honest. And you said, you look a lot better from a distance than you do up close. And I was like, holy. And then you went on to tell me all the things, right? And it was constructive, but both of you told me things about myself and about my business that I was pissed at the time, but 10 years later, it was my norm. How are you two able to deal emotionally when you know what's going to happen, but it takes 6-10 years for people to catch on, but you continue to stay in that? How's that emotionally for you?
Gosh, I think that
do you want to choke somebody? I mean, do you want to choke somebody? Because sometimes, like when I tell my kid, like, this is going to happen, and they're like, no, it ain't, Dad. And then they do it. I'm like, I want to choke you a little bit because I told you, but you're doing this, and you're doing this over a long time. I've watched your whole career. So take us into the emotional part of that.
I think the part that what's amazing to me, and I've told this story so many times, and it happened, when I was working in the restaurants, and I started working in franchise world. And I used to tell Steve, people are so funny, because if I was around, let's say you had 400 in the franchise base and the franchisees base, and then someone would meet with me and they'd say, hey, do those people all at the top 10 really do all the things they say you're supposed to do? And I would say, yes. Well, don't they think that cost there is, they don't do it exactly like that. I mean, they outsourced other things and they didn't follow all the rules. No, they did. And so we were golfing one time, and they put us with a franchisee and a top franchisee, and it was Steve and I, and we were I think we were on the first or second hole, and the one guy said to the franchisee, the best one, hey, do you
really do
all the stuff they say to do? And he said, yes, follow the system. We got to the next holes, but don't you think sometimes follow the system? I mean, we had 18 holes of this guy saying, follow the system. When you choose to be a consultant in business, you're going to talk about following the system, whether it's yours or somebody else's, for the rest of your life. There's people that just will want to take the shortcut, and they'll decide what things aren't necessary and don't even realize that decision jeopardized their whole cause. And, yeah, there's times I've even said to my husband, watch out for this, watch out for this. And maybe I see something before he does, and no, you don't know. And then it comes true, right? I'm sure it's happened to Brooklyn and you. And then, yeah, I want to poke Steve's eyes out, of course, but sometimes you have to wait for people to get it, to learn it. And John McCormick is the first time I heard this. It says, when the teacher's ready, the student will appear. And there's
the other way around.
when the student
is ready.
I'm sorry, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I could be teaching the exact same words for 30 years, and then all of a sudden the student decides they're ready, and then they'll learn it. And I think when you are committed to efficiencies and improvements and making their lives easier financially and having easier owner nights when they lay their head down, you have to risk a lot. You have to be vulnerable a lot. And I don't take it personally if they choose not to. I know I did my job. I know I put my opinion out there to be heard. And if it backfires and they decide to not follow us, and then usually they come back and knock on the door, hey, I should have listened to you. I just lost 6 people, and then you start over again. But yeah, there's times I get frustrated, only because we've witnessed the writing on the wall so many times.
Yeah. And I think, Kelly, from my standpoint, I'll tell you one thing that's kind of like nails on a blackboard for me. And the younger people don't even remember what a blackboard is, but it's a horrible sound. When it would happen is when business owners or hairdressers talk about percentages.
Oh.
They talk in percentages instead of dollar per guest, service dollar per guest, take home dollar per guest. Because that's the thing that consistently now for 30 years we've been talking about, that unless your price of service is the same, you can't go with percentages. You've got to go with dollar per guest, the way the business happens.
Meaning if the whole industry charged the same, then those percentages could mean something. But
Right.
if everyone's menu is priced differently, percentages are who cares. So when people say, we were at 30% today, you could have been at 30% at $3, right? So we don't allow percentages to be a conversation. The only time I kind of like them is when you're talking about of your traffic, what is established and what is new customers. And I do kind of like to see where we're falling in on that. But other than that, I don't really like to look at it.
So for me, kind of the progression of the years has come across this, something that you've seen. I'm sure, Kelly, you've seen speakers before. They go up and they put SW, 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 right? And so they say some will, some won't, so what? And that kind of caught my, as a young person in the business, I could kind of live with that for a while. And then it really started to bother me because I'm not a so what person. And so I remember having a conversation with my dad about it. And he told me the story about, the old, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But on the farm, we used to, you had a choice. You could either beat them over the snout with a 2x4 to get them to drink, or you could put a little salt in their diet. And so I started thinking about this SW, SW, SW. And the best way that I could do it to get past the so what was put SWL, some will later. The some will, some won't. Not so what, but some will later. And for that, I go back to a story I'll never forget. One of the first times I worked with Paul Mitchell, the man, in a trade show. And he had just come back from the New York show, because the New York show used to be right before Chicago. Then he came and did the Chicago show. And here he is, he's totally, abandoned the blow dryer and whatnot. And he said, I had a hairdresser in New York run up to me and say that day at this show, they bought their first blow dryer. And they thought that Paul would be excited about it, because Paul had been 20 years with Sassoon talking about the blow dry, right? And he just looked at me and he said, can you even believe that this here's 20 years later, this person bought their first blow dryer? That was my message 20 years ago. Well, there's a little bit of that when it comes to this, because there's a lot of voices. There's a lot of noise in our industry, but very few voices. And so I think that, you know, that's why right now what we're doing is we're trying to find the people like yourself, like Robert, and others that really are trying, you know, where we've got matched hearts. And where we have matched hearts, I believe that we come together and we can change the industry.
Absolutely. Well, I think, I mean, right, when you said it with Paul, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the whole, with us, with Paul Mitchell, the whole concept of Paul Mitchell in the first place was wet hair sculpting. And, and it's great because, you know, it comes full circle, you know.
Oh, it always does.
It comes full circle. And if we fall in love with those things, you know, I think it's great. I had 4 little things I want to share with you, if you guys don't mind.
No,
Because for salon owners and for hairdressers, what I would suggest, and I'll hit these quick, is just number 1, assess your brand. Like assess your brand right now before you go back in, before you start getting too busy. Assess your brand and look who your leader is and where does the buck stop, right? Number 2 is to lock into your values. Once you've assessed your brand, then lock into your values. Look at your values and say, like, I mean, Gordon Logan built a $750 million company a year. That's what he does. That's the revenue that he does. And he did it on 3 things: do what's right, do your best, and treat others the way you want to be treated. And that was it. That was his principles. So if we assess what our brand is, we lock into our values and we hold on to them, like Terry was talking about earlier. Number 3 is to create a plan. And what I would suggest is create a plan in a 3-tier system. And whether it be for reopening or for your assistant program or for whatever it is, create a 3-tier. The first one is going to be very, very strict. It's kind of almost like cleansing your body. And then you bring back a little bit more and you bring back your new normal. Stage 3 is your new normal. But take your time, just like when you have a breakup. People tell you all the time, you need to get over that. Honestly, you need to do whatever you need to do to be able to get through it at the time. There's no time. Am I correct on this? Like my mom just passed away 2 years ago. And when people tried to tell me, oh, well, it's been a year or it's been a year and a half. No, I take as long as I need. I take as long as I need, and take as long as you need in phase 1. Be as strict as you can in phase 1 for as long as. And then the last one, what up? Hi
to Mr. Kelly.
How you doing?
That's Jackson.
What's on
I've known you.
face?
I've known you since you were a little itty bitty like this.
Eating stinky Doritos again.
Yes, stinky Doritos are good.
He loves them. Yeah.
That's good. I love it. And
my,
then
my favorite commercial is the guy that's got the Cheeto radar light and the black light, and says to the family, I have this light, who's gotten in the Cheetos, and he turns it on and the people, have you seen it?
Yeah, I know exactly.
When did we get a cat? Love that. That's checking on efficiencies, right?
All right, so your 4th thing.
What's the 4th one?
The 4th one is execute the plan. And you know, most people don't get to this point, and they create a plan, but they don't execute it. And what I would suggest in execution is just shoot and then adjust your aim. Mm-hmm. And as opposed to being so freaked out that if you make a decision, it might be the wrong one. Make a decision, and if it's not good, then I have one word that my mom taught me from when I was a little kid. And she was my mom is like Terry. She's very weird about, she was very weird about profanity. And she thought poop was a bad word. But there was one word that she allowed in the house.
Oh yeah, I didn't like that word. I don't like it.
One word that she allowed in the house that was a cuss word, but it was only in this context. And all it was if something happened that you didn't like, then you simply shrug your shoulders, put your hands up, and you say, shit. And my mom, this little woman that would never cuss in her life, if you lose your job, shit, maybe I'll get another one. My tire pops on my car, shit. My boyfriend breaks up with me, shit. I got a divorce, shit. My cat died, shit. Maybe I'll get another one. The world shuts down and I can no longer do hair anymore. Shit. Maybe you weren't supposed to be doing it in the first place, or maybe it's time to go digital. Shit. Like that part, if we look at that when we're executing our plan, then we'll do like my wife said, which is stick to the plan and go with the flow.
Well, and I think the part of evaluating right now, wait a minute, Jack, just give us a second. We're on with Kelly.
Yeah, Jack.
Again, Jack. So what I think should happen though is, you know, you've got to have the person that says, did it work today? Especially during those first couple weeks. What could we have fine tuned? What worked? Like good show, bad show. What worked for us? What didn't work for us? Where could we have expedited and done something to make it more easily? I mean, if you think about, once again, the service providers are there to do the job. The frontline service providers. Our job as managers and leaders is to make sure we put systems in place so that frontline can do the job with ease. That's key, that they can do the job with ease. So the managers are coming together and saying, when did you get frustrated today? What was the hardship? Where was there a bottleneck? When did we back up at the color bar? What happened when we couldn't reschedule? And I'm going to tell you a couple things that are going to happen. There's people, even if we say in some of our salons, we've told them no common area on the inside, so make the parking lot your waiting area. There's going to be people that get out of the car. They're not going to follow the rules. They're going to be standing right outside, putting their hand up to the window, looking in, I'm here. And it's not going to be time for them yet. It's not going to be time. And then how are we going to respond to that? How are we going to teach a person to have the executive level presence to be able to go out there and say, one moment, please. I have a clipboard. I see that you're out of your car. May I have your name? And I'll be out for and call for you in just a moment. We have to be ready for that because there's people that are not going to follow the rules. You take their mask off. This is what we're going to say. If they don't want to put on our disposable cape, if that's one of our conditions, then this is what we're going to say. You know, I gave the example the other day of the first time that as a 22-year-old or something, I had to say to a grown man that he had too much to drink and I wouldn't be serving him anymore. I mean, when I got that first one underneath my belt, I was okay. But that first one, my knees were shaking and everything. This is what's going to be hard for them because they perceive as if they're reprimanding their customer versus asking their customer to join us and support us in our efforts for safety. You know, you can't look at it as a reprimand.
Well, and I think that, you know, this is a thing that I shared with Steve too. And when we were talking on the phone is, I think that salons, when you're going back, you have to lay everything out. And we laid everything out you can check my Instagram, The Real Kelly Cardenas, and you can read it. And it doesn't leave. I mean, we don't pull any punches at all. We let people know that there's going to be absolutely no exceptions to the rules. Here's the rules. There they are. We love you. We thank you. So what we did is we did the sandwich. We told them how much we missed them. We told them all the rules, that's the meat. And then we talked about how much we loved them. So we sandwiched it together. And I think the thing that we need to make sure that we do is have fun with this stuff. Like I said, with this stuff, like, I mean, when these came out, our guests went nuts. Like they're on our website and our guests went nuts. They were like, because they were like, oh, wow, okay, I literally can laugh a little bit during this time. Right. The other thing is with the temperature checks, we actually used it in our verbiage. And again, having fun, we said, I'm going to check your radio station. And so guests would be 98.4 and I'd be like soft rock all day. And I would be, you know, hit another one. I'd be like, okay, rock and roll. Okay, hard rock. Oh, hip hop. Oh, polka. And the guest would then, it would diffuse them. It would help them to understand that I'm serious about this, but that we're having fun with it. And it literally, now people in our Las Vegas location, they are clamoring. I swear to you, our stylists are clamoring. Can I go out and do the temperature? Can I go out and do the temperature? Because I said, in the first meeting, I said, guys, I am the one that's going to take all the temperatures. And I went out and I had so much fun with it. And then everyone was like, oh, wow, let me do it. Let me try it. Yeah. You know, so make sure that you have fun with it. And again, like we did like this is all stickers, right? So we did all our hand sanitizer and put stickers on it. And so all our guests were like, oh my gosh, you guys have hand sanitizer. Well, at the time we only had stickers, but the hand sanitizer is now on order. And so we have our own branded hand sanitizer too. And have fun.
Like, but expediters and businesses are, I used to tell Steve that years ago, it was my favorite position to have in the restaurant is expediting and just making contact with everyone. And you're quick on your feet. I'm pretty quick on my feet. And that's what makes that enjoyable. If you don't like people and you're not quick on your feet, you're going to look like a stooge standing there, right? So you've got to be really careful on who you select for that.
And I think, you know, and Steve, you've taught me this over the years is, you know, you've taught me to be a systems person. That's where systems come from, is from both of you guys. And Steve, what you've really impressed on me over the years is that although the systems are so important, please do not put them over the people. And I would caution hairdressers, salon owners, and anyone in an organization that please do not commoditize your business. And this is exactly what I mean. So write this down. Do not commoditize your business by positioning yourself as the safest salon in the neighborhood. Because guys, that makes you a commodity. And I said this the other day is Volvo, their slogan is we're the safest car on the road. But when I asked the person I was talking to, do you know who created that technology? They said, well, Volvo did. I said, no, it was Mercedes. And Mercedes thought it was so important for all cars to be safe that they gave that technology away because they didn't want to be known as the safest car on the road. They wanted to be known as one of the coolest cars on the road. But when Volvo took that on, they also took on a brand and they took on a type of guest that was going after Volvo. And if you look at the demographic of who buys Volvo, it's a very boring vanilla person. And so that's the stigma that now they're trying to break now. And they have very cool cars now. And I drove a Volvo before, so don't judge me, you put a comment up and say, oh, you're hating on it. But what I'm saying is, guys, there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I'm going to be the safest. I'm going to be the safest. Don't be the safest. Be the best brand of you that happens to be safe. Does that make sense? Because otherwise you're going to get commoditized. And once you get commoditized, there's somebody else that's going to be safer. There's somebody else that's going to do this. And you don't want to get in that game, especially in the professional beauty industry.
I want to go back to the line that you said is don't put systems over people. I'm going to agree with that, but I'm also going to add that I disagree with it.
Okay.
And here's the reason. You put systems in place so the people have more strength and confidence to do what they're doing. That's why the systems are necessary. It's not a free-for-all. It's for us to be on common ground. I mean, if you think about, I watched A Few Good Men today, and I was just watching the disciplines of what they do to go through their trainings and the little bylines that they were using throughout the movie, talking about the disciplines of their core. You know, this is our core. This is what we do. This is how we shoot. These are our paperwork that's mandated, everything else. And it's because it gives them the confidence to protect the country. Our systems in place gives our people the confidence that we're going to serve at this level. And so I just want to make sure that people don't think they're two separate things, because a lot of times the systems are in there to help the people. It's the reason you do it.
Absolutely. And I think, exactly what you're talking about is you manage the system and you love the people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you switch that around, that's the point that I was getting to. If you switch that around, because there are a lot of organizations that love the system and they try and manage the people. And every time that I've tried to do that, I've gotten in trouble. Yeah. And so what I would say, and I don't know, you can even disagree with that one, but is to make sure that we put those strong systems in place, manage the system, right? But love the people, and then that way you don't get emotional about the system. The system is the system.
So here's the thing too. Yeah. You're saying manage our system. The people in this circle of influence, this is the system that we're going to do, not
absolutely
my system. It's the one that this leadership came together and said, this is the best use. I love hearing from the directors, what could we improve upon? What would be better for you? What's in the way? What are we struggling with? Have you gotten in your people's heads, the front line, and said, when do we create an uncomfortable moment from them, and what can we do to fix it? We might have some of those things that happen these first 2 weeks. So be asking a lot of questions of curiosity, a lot of curiosity.
Absolutely. And I'd make sure too, as you go, is, there's going to be, I tell you, you're going to get so many opinions. You're going to have people that, you're going to have guests. But I can tell you this, out of 350 guests that first week, out of 350 guests, we had only one that said, man, I wish I could get my hair blow dried.
That's strong.
That's strong.
That's
Well, that just
pretty
said.
good.
Yeah.
And you're also means that you're saying the why to the customer versus announcing it as we're just not blow drying, right? You have to say the why.
Yeah, the protective style, and we're adding value to it. And people had asked me, this was a hot button, and we didn't even go into this, but it was a hot button. People were like, oh, should I charge a COVID fee? And a lot of people feel different ways on this. And, for us, we said no, because I went through the valet parking dilemma in catastrophe in Las Vegas. And what they did is a bunch of suits at the top got together and said, let's call it 4 million people come to Vegas, and they come to park in the casinos. And we're not charging anything for valet or for parking for that matter. So we're losing money. So we're going to charge them $20 a head. So they were thinking $80 million. Well, they didn't realize all the people that they were going to alienate and all the people that weren't going to come to the casino and spend money because of the $20. And it wasn't the $20, it was the principal. So what I did the math on is I had some salon owners ask me, they said, well, I did a $3 COVID fee for every person. And I said, well, I appreciate you. I think it's great. Let's do the math here. So if you have a guest who sees you once every 6 weeks, right? So that's 9 times a year. And they spend $100, that's $900. If they have 3 friends, that's $2,700. $2,700 means that if that guest gets pissed off and leaves, they're taking 3 friends with them. So it will take you 900 visits to be able to get back that money. It's not worth it. To me, it's not worth it. So although we're not charging any more, we're not charging any less. So the blow dries were complimentary, and people were like, oh, are you charging less? No, but we're not charging more, because there's a lot of people that are charging more and upcharging you because of that. I'm not judging it. I'm just telling you from my perspective.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I see it both ways. I could vote either way on that.
Absolutely.
Or a combination of both. Yeah. I mean, I certainly don't think it should be a profit center line item, but if it really affects, and you haven't done an increase in a number of years, and you were thinking about doing an increase, and then here comes these COVID PPE expenses, you might want to put a line item on there, versus doing a price increase. I don't know, but weigh that out. Weigh it out and put pencil to paper and see what that looks like for you if you were to prorate it over a year's time.
All right. Let's
Thank you.
Thank you,
Kelly,
buddy.
thank you.
Thank
You
you.
guys are awesome.
Go spoil your wife, would you please?
Tell her
Yes.
happy birthday.
Yes, I will.
Can you go out to dinner or anything open?
We're probably going to do takeout. I think we're going to go on a hike, and then we're going to go on do takeout. So
Yeah, well, I'm not doing hikes. You know what? Yesterday I said, he goes, no, we have to hike a little bit. And I said, oh God, can't I just get on and someone drag me around the zip line? Have you zip lined?
I have not zip lined. No, actually I did, but it was a very small one. I could see the ground. It was really close. It wasn't.
First of all, I was 350 feet up in the air and going 65 miles an hour. And had I known that, no way I would have ever gone. I mean, Steve and Emma were good to not tell me exactly what was going to happen yesterday. And 65 miles an hour on a zip line, 350 feet up in the air, and they go, and it's a little windy today. Oh God. I mean, I said, I have to be a good example for my daughter, take risks and I did it, but I can tell you that the hardest part for me was the brake. And the brake looks like, it sounds like you were just in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
And every time it happened, I didn't like it. I mean, it jarred me and I was waiting for it. That's why I'm so tense today. It was almost as if I was hit from behind and in front at the same time. And then they have this big thing come towards you and you think you're going to get hit in the face and you don't, of course, but I don't need to do it again. I'm glad I can say I've joined the zipline club, but that pushed me outside my comfort. I can tell you that. I got out, and when he picked me up, he and Jack, and I looked at him and he knew. He said, you didn't enjoy that. I said, no, I did, but I'll never do it again. I'll never do it again. Yeah, because it's hard. Plus, darn it. And now you're going to go for a hike. Take care of that. Take care of Brooklyn.
Thank you. Well, Steve, what do you have for us as far as a message to all these people that, I mean, they spend time, you guys spend time. What message do you have to all the people that are opening their salon or they're going through some things that are challenging right now?
Well, you know, the thing that resonated with me the most was this is a time where, as a salon owner, you have to be present. And it just proved it, Kelly, when you said the buck stops here, I've got to be the 5-star general. And owners have to be there, and they have to be present during this time. And some of you are going to be behind the chair servicing your own guests, but you've got to make sure that you have the eyes for the business and for your people. Because if we're truly going to be committed to the team, to our guests, and to the community, we have to see. And you know, I think that's such an interesting thing, because the psychologists will say, you know, who does this a lot is Brene Brown, who I'm a big fan of. She says all the time that people need to be seen. And it sounds like such a simple thing. We look at people all the time, right? We look at people, but do we really see them? And I think to see them, to see your staff while they're working, while they're coming back, they're out of their comfort zone, which, by the way, somebody needs to tell them that all growth comes outside the comfort zone. This is that they're growing. The reason they're uncomfortable is they're growing. They're not just going to work to make the donuts because it's what they've done every day for the last 10 years. This is different now. Different doesn't mean worse. It has an opportunity to be better. It's different, better. If you're present to it and then rely on you, the buck stops here. Absolutely. It does stop. I mean, we've got, I'll give you an example. Our salespeople, our consultants, their world is completely upside down right now, because no salon needs an extra person in their salon count right now, but they all need help, and they all need, you know, that input. And so the way they do their job is changing completely, at least for the immediate future. So again, do you turn up the communication? Do you turn up the volume, or do you turn it down? It's like, how many times are you going to call and text Tim Grover? You know, you'll stay after the things that matter. And if this matters to these salons, that you figure it out. We talked to a salon owner, Kelly, on the way down when we were driving, and she literally had to reconstruct. They did everything right beforehand. They did the dialogue planning, the steps of the service planning, the Zoom trainings, the videos to show people how everything's done. At the end of the first week, they had to completely re-engineer it, because by the end of the first week, her staff was burned out. Her staff was cranky. And you know, to her credit, she realized
was tired too.
She realized that, and she made the changes and came back, and the second week back went very, very well. Well, somebody's got to be there to see that. So the biggest thing is, congratulations, we're back. But it's the starting line. It's not a finish line.
Well, and I think it goes back to that, my favorite saying that I've lived by in business for my whole career, and it's quality is never an accident. And it's always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and skillful execution. And everything we've talked about today are those three things. And then realizing that quality, it represents the choice of many alternatives. When people choose not to wear masks, or choose not to disinfect, or choose not to create social distancing in their businesses, and not changing up and removing the common area and the common beverage area, they're choosing. That's where they're making the choice for different alternatives other than quality service during this time. And I think that it'll come back and bite them. You know, this isn't a, let's just try these 2 or 3 things. I mean, this is a re-grand opening for a business in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, buddy, we're going to get you out of here so you can have dinner.
All right.
We love you.
We love you,
Love
honey.
you too. Thank you guys so much. You're awesome.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.